Hey guys, welcome to the Decoders podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Luke. This is Kayden. Today we're covering The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's 1980 horror film based on Stephen King's 1977 book of the same title. Isaac, Isaiah, and Jacob covered Fight Club in episode 1 of our podcast. So go check that out when you get the chance. It's a good one. And we should have links to our website, our YouTube. This should be on Spotify as well, so just go check that out. But, Kayden, how you feeling, brother?
Feeling great. Glad to be here. I think we're going to be more of the horror-adjacent guys on this.
Right.
I think the other guys, they like horror as well, but horror is like our main thing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If you have any horror movie needs, come to us, and we'd love to discuss it with y'all.
Yeah, any recommendations, just drop a comment. We're probably going to cover Dr. Sleep eventually when he reads the book, and then we'll watch the movie. But, yeah, we'll keep y'all updated on that. But our first section of this video will be spoiler-free, maybe a third to a half of this video, and then we'll let y'all know when we're moving into spoilers. And we recommend you watch the movie before any of this video, honestly, but especially the spoiler section. Don't go into that if you haven't watched the movie. And we're going to be talking about the book, too, and stuff, but we'll give you all warnings. So, Kayden, we'll start with your thoughts. What'd you think about the movie? How'd you feel? How would you rate it? And just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it was obviously a very influential movie. The Shining, I feel like, is a movie that, you know, when you get into horror movies, you hear about it all the time. And so it was very high on my bucket list to watch. I've been wanting to watch it for several years and finally got around to it. And overall, I liked it. I really did. I thought overall it was just a well put together movie.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to go into these movies with your expectations completely put aside because, you know, you hear so much about it, you want to get a lot out of it. But true. Overall, I really liked it. I thought the acting was solid. I thought the cinematography was solid. The musical score I thought was really good. Mm-hmm. From the first shot of the movie, I knew I would like it.
The first shot was great. I wanted to talk about that. I'm guessing that was a helicopter shot.
I think
right?
It was, yes.
I mean, it had to be in 1980. But I thought that was phenomenal. Paired with the score, I think, still holds up very well. It shows its age a little bit with the 80s synth, but like it was still pretty bone chilling in my opinion. That's one thing that stuck out to me in this movie is the score. I thought for 1980 it blew me away. I was like, man, this is the vocals, man, they were great.
Yeah.
And I actually went back and found the track on Spotify and I've been listening to it, but it's so good. But I agree with you, man. So I gave it a 3.5 on Letterboxd. So we're probably gonna link our Letterboxd accounts on there. I'm active on there. Kayden, he might start doing it.
I want to be active.
Yeah, he might start doing it a little bit more. But I gave it a 3.5. I can get more into that later. But what are you feeling right now for you as far as a score? If you had to put it somewhere.
So when I first watched it, I was thinking 5 out of 5, and I think that may have been too hasty. Right now, I would probably lean toward like a 4, maybe 4.5 out of 5. It was very good. Mm-hmm. I think it did have a few flaws, and I read the novel first, and we're going to discuss that later on in the video. So for me, it was kind of hard to separate The Shining as a movie versus as an adaptation.
Right.
So, you know, there were some points deducted there, but overall, I would say a 4-star.
Yeah. I almost gave it a 4. I think we liked it about the same. You probably liked it a little bit more than me. But as far as like technical merit of the film, it's undeniable that Kubrick is just one of the greats, you know. And for 1980, you know, I think this film does show its age, you know, a fair amount, but as expected. But it also, it holds up in a lot of ways. You mentioned the cinematography, you know, the lingering shots of, you know, Danny on his little plastic bicycle. Yeah. Those were great. You know, the steady cam following him from behind. You don't know what's coming around the corner. They just keep going and going. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it builds the tension.
Yes,
that few extra seconds, it gives your mind more time to wonder and think about what's going to come out, you know.
Exactly.
And I think even now, like contrasting it with newer horror movies, like a lot of jump scares in newer horror movies. So scenes like that in a newer horror movie, like these new movies condition you to think what's going to pop out at me.
Right.
You know, and I think that actually kind of helped the experience of this, because when you're watching Danny ride around on his little bicycle, you're just waiting for something to happen, and when it doesn't, it just builds the tension up inside you, and it you know, makes you feel like, you know, something's going to drop at any moment.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
all that tension is obviously released at the climax. But yeah, I thought it was I like the longer shots for sure.
Yeah, they were good. Something about Kubrick, he lets every shot breathe, and it'll just keep going on and on and on. Sometimes maybe to a fault, but I think overall, I think this benefited the film.
Yeah.
You know, for the most
Yeah.
part. I liked it. You mentioned the acting. What'd you think about Jack Nicholson's performance? Because it's held at a very high standard. You know, most cinephiles would say this is. I would think they'd say this is one of the best performances
Yeah.
in a horror movie. So what do you think?
So the thing with his performance, and like I said, I'm going to try not to talk about the book the whole time. It is hard to do, you know.
Yeah, it is.
But
And I haven't read the book. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, you're good.
I haven't read the book yet. I don't know if I ever will, but Kayden has read the book recently too. How long has it been?
It was January.
January.
So just a couple months.
Just a couple months ago. And we just finished the movie. I finished it on Monday, and you finished it what?
I think
the
I
same
finished
day, I
it.
think?
I think I finished it maybe a day before you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still pretty fresh with this, but yeah, so Kayden has that experience with the book. We'll talk about it later, but go ahead, brother. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. What I was going to say was, with what Jack Nicholson's given, he does a very good job, I thought. Obviously, it's a very different character than the book version. So, you know, I think some King people will, you know, take issue with his performance because of that, but I don't think you can put it on him. I think he did just a good job of what he was given.
Right.
I thought there were a few moments that, and we kind of briefly discussed this, that kind of had us laughing a little bit.
Yeah.
I know one moment for me was when Jack is he's having the nightmare, and he's laying down on his desk, and he's making the noises and the faces, and
Yeah.
while he's in the nightmare, that kind of had me chuckling a little bit. I mean, you can tell he maybe puts a little too much into it from time to time,
Yeah.
but overall, very good performance. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's one of the greatest for a reason. You know?
Right,
So,
right. I thought it was a solid performance too. I thought he was good. With that being said, I think it's a very overrated performance in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard so many people mention this performance, and again, I think it was solid, but you know, I feel like as far as the depth, there wasn't a ton of depth there. You know, he ends up, you know, he plays a madman. I don't want to go into too much detail before we talk about spoilers, but he does that well. But there's not much depth or range, in my opinion. And there definitely are a few scenes where you're trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
You know.
and I think with Jake Lloyd too, or
Yeah.
Danny Lloyd. I'm sorry.
Right.
With Danny Lloyd, there's some issues there too.
The friend, the voice he
Yeah.
has, yeah.
Yep. But I mean, I don't hold that against him. I mean, the kid was probably like 7 years old.
Yeah, he was
at the
6
time.
when they were filming.
I mean, he did a great job, in my opinion, for, you know, considering his age. I mean,
Yeah.
me at 6 years old, or most even child actors at 6 years old, could not have given the performance that he did.
Right.
So-
For those of you who don't know, I'm forgetting his name. I've got it written down here. Danny Lloyd is the actor. He plays Danny Torrance, the son of Jack Nicholson's character. And he has this imaginary friend, right, who he pulls out this finger, and
Yeah.
he whips out this pretty funny voice when he's talking with him. And it's kind of like he's possessed. That's the implication, right? That
A
it's
little bit,
that it's
yeah.
somebody else talking through him. And it is kind of hard not to laugh, you know. And I'm sure in 1980 it wasn't nearly as funny. You know, I know me and
Yeah.
you had this conversation. Audiences were a lot easier to scare back in the day because everything's relative. You know what I mean? So I think now there's still a few scenes in here that are absolutely masterful and
Yes.
just unnerving and super uncomfortable and are just amazing, like horror scenes. And but there's definitely a few in there that you know, especially if I was watching with friends, I probably would have been on the ground. You
Yeah.
know, and they're not necessarily that bad, especially for their time. I think they were pretty solid, but that's definitely in there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.
But anything else we need to mention on our opening thoughts and
Yeah. How did you feel about Shelley Duvall and Scatman Crothers, their performances? Because I mean, really, I mean, this movie very limited cast. I mean, there aren't a ton of characters. You
Right.
basically have 4 characters.
Right.
You have the Torrance family, and then you have another character named Dick Halloran.
Yeah.
Won't really go into his significance in the story until spoilers.
Right.
But I mean, that's essentially your main cast. I mean, there are some other characters in there, but for the most part, it's those 4. How do you feel about those 2?
I thought Shelley Duvall was pretty good. I thought she gave a good performance. I mean, this isn't really a spoiler. She spends a lot of the movie like just in agony, just in terror, really.
Yeah.
And in this state of just where she's just freaked out, you know, and so she cries a lot. She screams a lot. Stephen King famously thought her character was, you know, Stanley really reduced her character to something that's misogynistic. We'll get into that later.
Yeah. She did very much play kind of the old trope of like the damsel in distress,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
very tropey, very stereotypical.
Yeah. So it's the same thing with Jack Nicholson, where she's not given a whole lot to work with.
Yeah.
But what she was given, I felt that she did good.
Yeah.
Like she really did sell it. Like I don't think I was ever really like laughing at her.
No.
You know, like
No.
she actually like she was selling it that she was just absolutely freaked out and in
Yeah.
this state of just terror. You know.
And also, in the beginning of the film, again, trying to keep it a little more vague so we don't give anything away. But I think in the beginning, before everything's going down, you can tell she's trying to like hold it together.
Yeah.
She's trying to convince herself in a way that everything's fine, nothing's wrong.
Right.
And I think she did good there too, you know. So
Yeah.
like her entire performance was believable. She's like almost trying to convince herself that things are okay until she just cannot make herself believe that anymore. And then when she realizes things are not okay, you believe that she is absolutely terrified. Not
Yeah.
only for herself, but for her son, obviously, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely that element where she's holding on to hope.
Yeah.
You know, like even with like the scene with the doctor and she's telling the story about, you know, Jack's past with
Yes.
alcoholism. You know, it almost seems like she's trying to lie to herself and not believe things that could be, you know, potentially happening behind her back.
Yeah.
You know, so she's definitely an optimist and she's definitely like, you know, I think it's a great representation of like, you know, marriages that are falling apart.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Stanley Kubrick did good in that sense. And I don't know how much of that is intact in the book, and we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
You ask about Dick Halloran, played by Scatman Crothers. I hope I'm
Yep.
pronouncing that right.
Yeah. We apologize if we're mispronouncing any of these people's names.
Yeah, I didn't think he was great. I didn't think he was bad.
Yeah.
I thought he was just okay. You know. I think his performance might have been a little bit too on the nose. You know, when he's telling Danny not to go into room 237.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
thought he's like, I don't know. I thought that might have been a little bit too in your face.
That was kind of endearing to me, though, because it kind of felt like he was kind of like a father figure, like, you know,
Yeah.
don't go in there. But you can tell there's that, like, affection that he has for him
That's
underneath
true.
all that.
That's true. Yeah, he was, you know, he's a really likable character. That's
Yeah.
for sure. I thought they might have done something different with him. I'm not gonna say, but
Yeah.
I was worried something was gonna happen. But anyways,
I
we
will
can,
say, before you move on,
yeah.
I hate to interject a
No,
lot.
no,
but,
you're good.
One thing that I was going to mention, I don't know if you noticed this too, but the scene where Dick is showing Wendy through the like refrigerator area, and he looks at Danny when they're like communicating telepathically, and he like looks right at him and makes the eye contact with him and smiles. That was a little corny to me. That was one shot that like didn't really land. I don't know if you noticed that.
No,
as
no,
well.
no. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I didn't think the kitchen scene was that great. Famously, I wrote it down so I didn't forget the number. Stanley Kubrick made the cast retake that scene 140 something times. I wrote it down somewhere. 148 times.
Yeah.
Well, they retook it 147, but they ended up having 148 shots, and that holds the Guinness World Record for most, reshoots in a scene, for a scene that has dialogue. And there's a lot of dialogue in that scene. So Kubrick, you know, famously, he's a perfectionist, and you know, he's pretty hard on the actors. You know,
Yeah.
there's videos out there of Shelley Duvall's character, like she's pulling her hair out, like she's losing hair from so much stress.
Wow.
Yeah. And Kubrick isn't really showing much empathy. You know what I mean? He knew what he wanted. He's a perfectionist. He's one of the greats for a reason, and he just pushed everybody, beyond their limit.
Yeah.
For better and for worse.
Yeah.
There's definitely consequences to that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about. But should we move on to the next section?
I think we should. Yeah. We can go ahead and discuss spoilers
Okay.
for the movie.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. Just our clock over here turned off. We don't know how much time is running, and we're gonna make sure the video is still going. So we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Okay, so now we're moving into spoilers. If you've made it this far and haven't seen the movie, definitely click off and watch the movie first, because we're gonna go into heavy spoilers.
Yep.
So. You want to talk about some theories first, or do you want to give a kind of an overview of the plot?
Yeah, so essentially the plot, you have Jack Torrance. He's a man who is pretty openly struggling with alcoholism, and he is down on his luck. He doesn't have a job, so he goes and gets this job as the winter caretaker of the Overlook Hotel. Very secluded hotel. In the winter months, you can't really go anywhere based on the location of the hotel. So he decides to just bring his family with him once he lands the job. And so he and his wife and his young son Danny are in this hotel for the winter, and they all start to experience. We're spoilers, so
yeah.
So they start to experience basically supernatural goings-ons in the hotel.
Yeah.
They see different figures in the hotel. They see, Jack specifically meets essentially the spirit of the former caretaker, the caretaker before him, Grady, who murdered his 2 daughters and his wife while he was caretaker. And Danny and Wendy as well start to notice some weird going-ons, and then Jack basically starts to lose his mind throughout the story and starts to become very violent toward his family.
Yeah.
That basically breaks it down.
And it ends with him trying to kill his family.
Yep.
They both escape.
Yep.
He ends up freezing in the maze.
Yeah, dies.
And you've got that notorious shot of him, frozen. Yeah. I can't help but laugh because growing up, I just saw it as a meme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See that?
It's a good shot, but I've seen it as a meme so many times.
Yeah.
But it's implied that he froze to death, but and then it ends with a picture on the wall of the hotel, and it's zooming in slowly. It's such a Kubrick shot. I mean, it probably goes on for 2 minutes, where it's just zooming in slowly and slowly. And it's a picture from 1921, July 4th. There's a date on the picture, and in the middle of the picture is Jack Nicholson's character, which throws you for a loop because, and there's different interpretations of this. Was it reincarnation? Did the hotel absorb his soul? Has he always been the caretaker? What's going on? And so there's definitely a lot of room for interpretation because this movie is very ambiguous.
Yeah.
And we'll dive into the book here in a few minutes. But we're just gonna talk about theories of the movie first. So, Kayden, when you saw the picture of Jack Torrance in 1921, implied that he was the caretaker at that time. How many years before? 59 years.
Yep.
Does the movie take place in 80?
I think 77.
77.
When the novel was written, it kind of just implies that it's taking place in the same time that it's written.
Okay. So 50 years plus, you know. What did you think when you saw that? I mean, how did you piece that together?
Yeah, so a few different things. One thing that I kind of took away from the story in both formats is that time in the Overlook for the dead there, it doesn't really move linearly. Mm-hmm. So, you have these spirits from back in the 20s, and then you have the spirit of Grady who, it is implied died, just a few years before. So a 50-year gap between these people, and they're existing in their spiritual form in the hotel at the same time. So it seems like time doesn't really apply like it does in the real world in the Overlook when it comes to the paranormal side of things.
Absolutely.
So, and also Grady at one point mentions that he's always been at the hotel. He says, Jack, you've always been the caretaker here because I've always been here. I would know.
Yeah.
So that's one way to look into it. Another
Real
thing,
quick before you move on,
Yeah.
if that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So Grady, he was played by Philip Stone. I forgot to mention him in the acting
Yes.
section. So good. I actually think he gave the best performance in the movie.
Yeah.
He's only got 3 to 4 minutes maybe of screen
Yeah.
time, but man, dude, he was bone chilling.
He was good. And also the actor who played Lloyd as well.
Lloyd was good.
he
Yeah,
was good.
I mean, that whole, every scene in the ballroom, I thought were some of the best scenes
Yeah.
in the movie.
It had such a cool vibe to it, like that Roaring '20s, like
Yeah.
kind of vibe. I've
Right.
always liked that in horror.
Yeah.
I just think it's an interesting time period.
Yeah, I agree with you.
They're all dressed up. I just thought it was a cool thing.
I like that line by Lloyd. It might have been by Jack Nicholson, actually. It was, they were sitting, Danny was, or not Danny, but Jack sat down for a drink. He was getting back into his alcoholism.
Yep.
And he was talking about just his marriage falling apart, essentially. And he's like,
Yeah.
women,
I know what you're gonna say.
Women, you can't live with them, but you
Yeah.
can't live without them. I thought that was a pretty cool line.
Yeah.
Was that Lloyd or Jack? I couldn't remember.
That was Lloyd.
Okay, I thought it was Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was good too because I feel like it kind of. I mean, Jack obviously. I think he's got some misogynist
Oh, yeah.
opinions of his
yeah.
wife, and I think that
Absolutely.
kind of that Lloyd line, although it was Lloyd who said it and not Jack. Jack is like nodding his head in agreement. It kind of shows. I feel like he views Wendy as kind of like an object.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like he doesn't want to live alongside her as a person.
Right, right,
He just
yeah.
wants her to leave him alone, but you
Yeah.
can't live without him for whatever reasons that he sees that objectify women. I thought that did a good job of showing that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The car ride scene on the way to the hotel, it's probably within 30 minutes of the movie. Is this after the interview or before?
This is after the interview.
After the interview.
Yeah.
So Jack's been there.
Landed the job.
Wendy and Danny haven't. And they're right. And they're all
Yes,
driving
correct,
to the
correct.
hotel, and you can tell Jack is just completely shut off to his family.
Yeah.
And I know I keep saying this. We're going to talk about it later with the book because Stephen King has a big issue with the way Kubrick, used Jack as a character. Because Jack has more of a slow transformation in the book, from my understanding.
Yep.
From the beginning in this movie, it's obvious that Jack is just completely shut off from his family. He's not
Yes.
happy with his life.
Yep.
He's obviously dealing with insecurities within himself, and he's so cold in the car.
Yeah.
He's rude to his wife. He's rude to his son.
I think another thing, not to
No,
cut-
you're
cut
good.
in,
Go ahead.
But a scene that was one of the best scenes in the movie, in my opinion, is where Danny and Wendy are downstairs, like watching a movie or something. And Danny's like, hey, can I go upstairs and get my little fire truck? And Wendy's like, well, your dad's probably sleeping. He's like, oh, I'll be quiet. And she's like, okay, sure. So Danny goes up to get the fire truck, and he walks in on his father, Jack, awake. He's not asleep like they thought he was. And he's
Yeah.
sitting up on the bed. And Danny sees him, and Jack's like, hey, come here for a minute. And you can just tell when Danny walks over there, and that whole interaction between the two of them, you can tell Danny's like, he looks kind of scared in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can tell this is not a loving relationship between Jack and Danny. You
Yeah.
can just see the uncomfort on Danny's face. And that's, again, that was kind of a complaint that I had as a book reader.
Yeah.
But I think that did a great job of showing that, like, obviously this child does not obviously trust his father as much as, would be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we could talk about this forever because stuff keeps
Entering
stuff
your
keeps
mind.
entering my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't speak. There's so many theories with so many different, plot points here within.
Yeah.
You were talking about it's implied that like Jack and his son didn't have a good relationship, right?
Yes.
So there's a theory, and this is a really weird theory, but it's pretty popular. Towards the end of the movie with the bear costume. So
Okay.
Wendy goes through that hallway and sees sees a guy in a bear costume, doing things with another man. It's a really weird scene, and the guy in the costume kind of like leans back and looks at Wendy. You can't see his face. there's another scene that looks a lot like that in the beginning of the movie with Danny brushing his teeth.
Really?
Yeah. So in both scenes, from what I can remember, the camera is kind of slowly moving forward, and in scene 1, the bear's leaned over, and then in scene 2, Danny is like leaned over brushing his teeth, and they really parallel each other. So there's a theory that Danny was abused by his father. That
Wow.
Stanley is Kubrick. He's implying that through these two parallel scenes.
I did not even catch that. Yeah.
And that's very plausible, especially with how scared Danny seems around his father. And not only that, but Danny can see the future, essentially,
Yeah.
with his supernatural abilities called The Shining. And so part of that may be that he saw his father trying to kill him and his mother.
Yes.
And that could be why he's so scared.
Which in the book, that is a big thing.
That is a big thing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure that's what that is, because, he's like, he even asked his dad, right? Like, is everything going to be okay? Are you all right? Or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, those two characters, they were mentioned in the book, but like we were kind of talking like briefly before this, it's hard to diagnose what Kubrick was thinking about, because it's obvious that like he didn't feel like he was telling the exact same story. He kind of felt like he was taking some liberties there.
Yeah.
So, you can't say like, oh, just because this happened in King's version, that's what Kubrick was going for. Like maybe he was using that scene to do something different,
Yeah,
Could be using
absolutely.
the same elements to tell something different. And that is a very interesting thing that you brought up, because I had not heard that one.
Yeah.
One thing that you know more about than I do is, and I saw this briefly when searching around after the movie, I hear that there's some tie into the moon landing. Is that right?
Yeah. Okay, so Room 237, it's a documentary released in like 2012. I watched it. It's about like 90 minutes or something. And it goes through all these different theories. And again, we could sit here and talk for 2 hours.
And I think that's a great thing about the movie is that there's so much you can read into it.
Yeah, I mean, almost anything goes. There's so much room for interpretation. One of the bigger ones is that Stanley Kubrick, helped NASA film the moon landing footage. This is a conspiracy. That in the movie he's trying to show, give little hints that he was the one who did it. He's almost trying to free himself of the guilt, or like kind of, just get it off his chest. That's at least a theory.
Yeah.
So one reason people think this, Danny is wearing the Apollo 11 sweater in one of the hallway scenes. I think it's the scene where the ball rolls to him from 237, the tennis ball. And then notoriously, Stanley Kubrick changed the room number from 217 in Steven's version to 237, right?
Yeah.
And his excuse for this was that the hotel he was filming in actually had a room 217, and that they didn't think anybody would want to book it anymore. They'd be too scared if they watched this movie. Me and Kayden were talking about how it'd be the opposite. That backfired on him. This room would have just been sold out all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, some of these conspiracy theorists have called the resort or the hotel or whatever and have asked them about room 217, and apparently they don't even have that room. So they think Stanley was lying about that, and they think the reason he changed it to 237 was because in 1980, we thought the moon was 237,000 miles away. That was the number we gave, in textbooks and stuff. Is it a reach? Potentially. Are we grasping for straws? Maybe. But it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I would like to believe it, but I don't know. It's one of those crazy theories.
So I just had a crazy thought, and this was literally just off the top of my head. So I believe Stanley Kubrick was born in 1928. I believe.
Okay.
And
I don't know if he was.
I am almost certain that Stephen King was born in 1948.
Okay.
So there's a 20-year difference there. What if Stanley Kubrick added 20 to the room number just out of spite and used that little number as a jumping off point?
He could have, yeah.
I mean, that seemed...
No, Kubrick was definitely taking shots at King in this movie. And we'll talk about that later. He didn't have full respect for this man. At least it doesn't seem that way. And he didn't care about what King thought about his handling of the source material. So I like that theory. That could be true.
Could be. I don't know.
Another big theory is that the movie is about the genocide of the Native American people. And this is actually mentioned in the movie. What's his name? Stuart Ullman.
Yep.
Played by Barry Nelson. I thought that was a good performance.
Yeah.
He's kind of the guy that gives the interview, kind of like a general manager of the hotel, I guess.
Yep.
And he's given Jack Nicholson a tour, him and his family, of the hotel, and he says that it was actually built on a Native American burial ground, which is very interesting. That I'm sure that ties in with the different spirits and the blood from the elevator and stuff. That's not the only mention of that. He also says that they had to ward off some Native Americans who were trying to, come at them for building this hotel on their
like
sacred
during the
land.
Construction, right?
Yeah, during the construction. It started in 1907, ended in 1909. And then throughout there's lots of Native American imagery throughout the movie.
Yeah.
There's Native American paintings, stuff like that, all over the place in the hotel. And the hotel is beautiful. That's one of my favorite things about this movie. This is a very aesthetically pleasing movie.
Yes. Very.
So many symmetrical shots.
Yeah.
The camera work is just so great in so many instances. The scene where they're walking through the hotel, he's giving him the tour, and the camera is just slowly panning, following them. It's keeping them in the center of the frame. Then it goes behind the wall, then it comes back out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so simple, but it's just, I appreciate that so much. I love that. But
there was one shot that I forgot to mention when we were talking about that, and I really like this. And these movies are completely different, but it kind of reminded me of Nosferatu in a way, just the way it looked. When the first time the camera panned behind, it was behind Jack while he was typing on the typewriter. And the entire room was dark, so he's just in the center of the room. You see him from behind, typing on the typewriter. You could see the glow of the fire and this entire kind of living common area of the hotel.
Yeah.
It just reminded me of Nosferatu for some reason. That
okay,
big,
the 2024 Eggers.
The 2024.
2024
yes,
Eggers.
yes.
Okay. What about it? I think I missed it.
Just like how Well, I don't want to bring in another movie and spoil it, but just the way the set looked.
Okay.
It kind of, and again, they're completely different. I may get flamed for saying that, but it just
that's a fair.
It seemed like very gothic to me, just how it looked.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up Eggers because I actually mentioned in my review. I think he was heavily inspired by this movie when he wrote The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people make that connection.
That's another movie that we have some passionate feelings
we
about.
could talk about that movie for a while.
We could also bring Isaiah.
We should Isaiah, you're gonna have to join
that.
us on that one. We should make an episode on that. But anyways, there's so many similarities.
That'd require about 10 rewatches if we wanted to.
Podcast. I mean that we could talk about that one for 6 hours.
Yeah.
But there's so many scenes that just parallel that movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like Eggers had to have been heavily inspired by this movie.
Yeah.
I won't give the specific scenes because if you haven't seen The Lighthouse, I don't want to give anything away. But but yeah, so the Native American thing, that's a popular one. The blood coming from the elevator doors, which by the way is one of the greatest shots, one of my favorite shots in the movie, along with the introduction shot. Where blood is just Tony, not Johnny, what's his name? Danny. I keep forgetting his name. Danny has this vision of the future that his imaginary friend Tony keeps showing him, of blood just seeping, just flowing out of this hotel room elevator.
Yep.
And what's interesting are the doors are closed. They're not open, and it's seeping through the cracks. I mean, it's more than seeping. It's just bursting out.
Yeah.
I don't know how much fake blood that took, and I'm sure he demanded reshoots on that too. So
oh yeah.
That,
I was thinking actually when I saw it, I wonder how much money and work went into just that one scene.
I was thinking the same thing, man.
Great shot though.
Great shot. There's a theory that that's supposed to be the Native American blood.
Interesting.
Which I don't know if I buy that, but it's definitely an interpretation. And the hotel elevator is closed, like I said. And that could be kind of symbolizing that, past genocides we've committed, the European people. We're trying to bury them.
Yeah.
We're not opening the doors. We're not
trying
acknowledging
to erase
them.
Their history.
Trying to erase the history.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that interpretation. again, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, anything goes.
I
But
just thought of this on the fly. I don't know if people, like, if this is an established part of the theory. I guess none of these theories are technically established. You know, it's just fan theories and all that. But
yeah,
when Jack says he feels like he's always been at the hotel, and then Grady tells him he's always been at the hotel, I think I could kind of see that fitting into the Native American theory. Like, you know, the colonizers who came in from Europe, you know, they came to land that people were already on, and you know, they took it, and now they kind of, you know, it's part of our identity. Like, you know, this is ours now.
yeah,
Although there were already people here that they took it from.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's a good point.
So that
Yeah.
I could see that.
I can see that too. And then also, I wrote this down so I didn't forget. But Grady's name changes his first name unless there's two different Gradys, which is very possible.
Yep.
When he's first mentioned by Ullman, he is. Let's see. I think he's Charles Grady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's Delbert Grady.
Yeah.
The past caretaker who apparently killed his 8 and 10-year-old daughter. Later on, the daughters are shown in visions as twins
Yeah.
of the same age, which is another inconsistency here that has to be intentional. There's so many inconsistencies with this movie. I just can't believe that these got past Kubrick. I don't think they did. I think they
Yeah.
were intentionally put in there to mess with us or to, you know, be there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, but he goes from Delbert to Charles when he shows up later.
Yes.
He says he's Charles Grady. So what did you think about that? Do you think that's the same Grady going by 2 different names, or do you think that's somebody else in his family?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Well, this is one theory that I saw that I'm about to mention is, and this does kind of tie into the novel a little bit. So in the novel, Jack is wanting to write a book about the Overlook. And so I saw one theory, and it was on Reddit. I wish I had their name pulled up so I could give them credit for it. But
Yeah.
there were multiple people who had mentioned this. They were saying that maybe the movie version is Jack Torrance's account of the Overlook. Like, it's essentially a story within a story.
Yeah.
And maybe he either got some things slightly wrong when writing the story, or maybe he took some liberties. So with Grady's name, could even say with the room number.
Yeah.
With the 2 girls, instead of being 10 and 8, he made them twins.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is weird because he wrote it about his own family. Or I guess you could even say it's someone else writing a story about the Overlook.
Yeah.
You
Could
know,
be.
you could just separate it from the Torrances entirely, and the Torrances could be entirely fictional. So, like, you know, a book within a movie, you know?
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting theory. I don't know if that's the case. That would seem a little too galaxy brain, but...
I do like that theory, though. That's
yeah.
very possible.
Because it is weird. I don't think it would have made it... Those discrepancies have to be intentional.
Yeah, there's no way they didn't notice that.
No.
There's also other stuff, like in the scene at the typewriter when him and Wendy are fighting, and he's, you know, telling her to go away. Yeah. There's a chair in the background, you know, against the wall, and it keeps cutting between Jack and Wendy. And when it comes back to Jack, the chair is gone. And then it comes back later, the chair reappears.
Yep.
I didn't notice this. Most of this stuff I didn't notice on my first watch.
Yeah, I didn't.
Credit to like Heavy Spoilers on YouTube. Go check his channel out. He has a great video on this. I learned most of this stuff through like analysis videos because it's just hard to catch most of this stuff, man. I mean, there's so much attention to detail in this film that Kubrick, you know, applied. But anything else you want to talk about as far as theories and interpretations? Do you want to say what you thought about the photo at the end, or what was your gut reaction to that?
Yeah, and we kind of covered this earlier as well, vaguely, but I don't remember if I mentioned this, but another thing that kind of stuck out to me, in addition to the time moving differently for the dead in the hotel, part of me was kind of thinking that, like, by Jack being in the photo and this notion of the fact that he's always been there, maybe it's not trying to go for the fact that Jack himself has always been there. Maybe it's just trying to say, like, the mold of Jack, like a very tormented man who has his demons and takes it out on his family. Maybe that same archetype has always been there. So not him specifically, but maybe just that mold of person had always been involved with the hotel in some way or another. Maybe Grady had the same issues. Maybe he was dealing with alcohol. And I think actually in the interview where Ullman is interviewing Jack, I think he mentioned maybe that that Grady had alcohol issues. I don't remember if that was in the movie or the book, or maybe I'm completely inventing that.
I think it's in. I think it would have been in the book, because I don't remember that in
Yeah.
the movie, but it could have.
'Cause
I could have missed it though.
I could have swore there was a part where he says something about, he was found with bottles or something,
Okay.
and Jack made a joke like, well, good thing I'm sober or something,
Yeah, yeah. Maybe
But
it
I
wasn't.
could be misremembering that.
I
I'm
can't
not
remember it. It's a pretty long movie.
Sure. Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm gonna need to rewatch it too.
Yeah.
Eventually. But my gut reaction, I think it could potentially be reincarnation.
That would be interesting.
This goes along with Jack telling Wendy, when I first got here, I felt so free, for the first time in my life or whatever, and I felt so much deja vu.
Yeah.
He said, I felt deja vu before, but never like this. He said it was insane the way he felt. So that could mean in a past life he's been there. That could mean in this life he's been there. What does that mean? I don't know, but maybe his spirit has been, locked in this prison.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Maybe the interview wasn't real.
Yeah.
Maybe the drive to the hotel wasn't
Yeah.
real. Maybe he was always there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out. That just came to mind. But
Now, this is something interesting that I did want to discuss and kind of tie in, 'cause that's an interesting theory. So let's say the reincarnation theory is true from Kubrick's point of view, and let's say the job interview and him driving up to the hotel and all that was real. That would imply, I would assume, that the Overlook had kind of called Jack to it. Correct? Is that kind of what you would think?
Yes.
Assuming those things are real.
yeah, I think it did call Jack.
So this
Yeah.
is something that after reading the book, a question that I had is, does the Overlook, is it just happenstance? Does it just take advantage of the people who happen to come to it? Or does it actively draw people that it wants? And there's something, there's an interesting, do you think I should go ahead and get into the differences? Because this point does kind of...
Yeah, we can move on to the book.
Okay.
Because we've been on this for a while. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the book. How this film stacks up as an adaptation.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on to, how this film is as an adaptation. And I want to start with this, and then I'll give it off to you.
Okay.
But I was mentioning how Kubrick took some shots at Stephen King, and I think the prime example is that Jack Torrance drives a red Beetle
Yep.
in the novel. In the movie, it was changed to a yellow Beetle. And there's a scene later in the movie where Dick Halloran is making his way to the hotel because he, trying to help the family out, trying to help out Wendy. He feels like something's gone wrong. But anyways, he passes a crashed red Beetle that's just been completely totaled, just destroyed. So this is more than likely Stanley Kubrick just saying, I'm going to do whatever I want with your story. You know what I mean? At
And
least
maybe
that
even a shot at him that your story went off the rails a little bit.
could be, yeah. And that's most people's interpretation. I mean, why else would he put that in there?
Yeah.
And it could just be a lighthearted joke, but
Yeah.
knowing him as a person, I doubt it was.
Yeah.
But you go ahead and tell me, brother, how you felt about, the book versus the movie.
Yeah. So what I was saying about, this is a question that I had. I want to get your input on this as well. So a big part of the book that the movie didn't really touch on is the Overlook's motivations. Why does the Overlook, why do the spirits in it, why do they want Jack to kill his family? And in the book, from what I took away from it, they mainly wanted him to kill his family to harness Danny's power. And Wendy just kind of got in the way. So Dick Halloran in the book, I know in the movie he obviously knows that Danny has the shine. But in the book, he explicitly says, he may have said this in the movie too, but in the book, he explicitly says, you have more shine than anyone I've ever met before.
Okay.
And I've met several people who have it. So it establishes that Danny is very powerful. And the hotel essentially wants Jack to do what he does by killing Danny so that it can kind of harness Danny's shine for the power of the hotel. And so what I was kind of thinking about is, if it's wanting to do this with Danny, what are the chances that Danny, who is extremely gifted when it comes to the shine, what are the chances that he just waltzed in there with his family? It seems to me more likely that the hotel could see, that the hotel put these events in motion.
Yeah.
And so what I was thinking was, it's established that when you have the shine, you can see the future.
Yeah.
It's parts of the future. You can see certain events that are going to happen before they happen.
Yeah.
So that means the Overlook had to have gotten the shine from somewhere. So did the founder of the hotel or maybe, someone who died early on in the hotel have the shine, and that kind of got the ball rolling, kind of powered up the hotel. And then the hotel used the shine from that person to call other people who have the shine. It brings an interesting point of, do you think the hotel kind of arranged these events, or do you think, it was just the wrong place, wrong time for Danny and Wendy?
That is a great question. I lean more towards it arranging the events.
That'd be cool.
I think it's fairly clear that the hotel is like its own being. At least that's what it seems like to me. It has its own will.
Yes.
Its own desires. And I think it probably lured Danny and his family in there. But that had never crossed my mind about it wanting to absorb Danny's powers.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Is that more clearly established in the book? Did you say that, or did you say that's just okay?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And a lot of people actually think that Jack had The Shining.
Yeah.
You think he did? And is that established in the book?
Well, I don't think so, because and this is another thing that was left out of the movie, was you see a lot more of what Danny is seeing in the book. And I think that sometimes works to the book's benefit and sometimes to its detriment.
Okay.
So an example of, I think, the movie getting it better was in the movie when Danny comes down the stairs and he's got the strangle marks on his neck. You haven't seen what Danny's seen. So at that point, as a viewer, if you don't know the story, you could think, like, was this Jack who strangled him? You wouldn't know. And I kind of like that better because it allows some more suspense.
Yeah.
In the book, you already see it from Danny's perspective. He goes into 217, and this spirit grabs a hold of his neck. And then another part, there's a presidential suite where, like, all these presidents have stayed.
Yeah.
And I believe it's a completely different room. And Danny goes in there and he sees, like, this brain matter and this blood, like, rolling down the wall. And that was from the past, where there was, like, this mob arrangement in that room and someone got shot in the room, and Jack and Wendy can't see it. So I would lean toward no, but I think there's varying levels of it, obviously. Okay. So maybe he had it in smaller amounts, maybe, potentially.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
It's interesting to think
about. I find
about.
myself just perplexed with this movie.
Yeah.
And
I think the shine is just, it's defined in the book more so than the movie, but even in the book, like I was telling Luke, and I am not like the biggest Stephen King expert. I'm kind of just now starting in him, but I think a lot of it is explained further in The Dark Tower.
Okay.
I don't think it's fully explained in The Shining, so there still is some mystery there. But it makes you like want to go and learn, more about it and dive into it, which I like.
Yeah. I like that too.
Because it's not, it's not like super well defined in any way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. The movie was very. It left a lot open to your imagination.
Yep.
Halfway through the movie, maybe I just completely missed it. But even after like the kitchen scene where Dick Halloran is explaining, what that power is, I'm still like I still don't fully know what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the movie never gives you the full answer.
Yeah.
But you mentioned like him seeing the future. Do you think he saw the future where he's going to be in that hotel? And if he did, why would he go?
So in the book, he does know, like he knows when Jack's going for the interview, he knows Jack's going to get the job. And then he starts seeing the red rum on the wall. Like this is before he's even traveled to the hotel once.
Okay.
Which the red rum is another thing. That red rum is like in almost every Danny chapter, he's thinking about it. Red rum, what does that mean?
Really? And that's only in one scene in the movie,
Only
right?
one scene in the movie, so it wasn't as played out in the movie. So he sees a lot of what's going to happen. But that's like after he knows that Jack's going for this interview in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's well before. Why would he go? I think King did a really good job in the book of writing him as a kid. Like he's very realistically a kid.
He is.
And so he just kind of trusts his mom. to go. Like, he knows something deep down's wrong, but he you know, when you're that age, you view your parents as like they've got everything figured out. And when you grow up, you know they don't.
Right.
But he's just like, yeah, mom thinks it's fine, so it should be fine, you know.
Yeah, that's an important point, because I mean, he's 6 years old, or I don't know how old his character is, but the actor is 6.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sure he's still struggling with, you know, what are these visions? You know, what's happening? I mean, there's different opinions on if he knows how powerful he is, or if he's still grappling with that, if he has no idea. You know, I'm not for sure where you stand on that, if you think he's very aware of what he's doing and very intentional with it or not.
I wouldn't say intentional, but he knows that he is aware that he can know things that other people would not be able to know.
Right.
Like, there's scenes where they're before the hotel where he's like hearkening back to where they're eating their family dinner at home, and he can see into his mom's mind and see the word divorce on her mind. And he's like, what does this word divorce mean? You know, because he's so young, he doesn't know.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so I think he's aware that he can do things that other people can't. Because there's other times, you know, where he's like, oh, well, I don't tell my parents about this because, like, to Dick, like, they won't believe me. So if he thinks they won't believe him, he knows that they probably can't do it, you know?
Right.
So I think he is somewhat aware, but I wouldn't say he's harnessing it, no. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think I agree with you there. You mentioned Wendy wanting a divorce in the book. I know we've talked about this.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between her character in the book. You were telling me in the movie. I mean, which one do you like more?
Yeah, so I'll go into this. I would say for both parents, they're both very different.
Yes.
So for Wendy, like Stephen King said, very, you know, in his words, a misogynistic portrayal. And, you know, in Stephen King's book, she is a much stronger character. Like, in the movie, you can tell she's like a woman. I don't know if you would call it weakness. You could interpret it as she's just wanting to save her marriage. And so she's willing to accept all of this verbal abuse from Jack just to keep the marriage going.
Yeah.
But in the book, she will tell him off, you know. I mean, it's like a completely different person. She's, you know, not going to be drug along by Jack. She's going to stand up to him.
Yeah.
If she has an objection, she's going to tell him. She's not backing down from anybody.
Yeah.
So very different portrayal. And then when it comes to Jack, huge difference. So in the movie, Jack is very cold toward his family. You can tell he doesn't even really seem to care much about his family.
Yeah.
In the book, you can tell he loves his family.
Yeah.
But there is this monster down inside of him that does come out.
Yeah.
Due to alcohol, due to anger.
Yeah.
Because there's moments where he goes into a rage when he's not drinking. So, you know, not all alcohol. You know, it's partly other factors as well. But you can tell there is a good man down there somewhere.
Yeah.
And in fact, the last thing that Jack ever says to Danny, so he's chasing him around the hotel, getting ready to kill him at the end. Or this is spoilers for the book. Go ahead and say that. If you want to read the book, I probably should have said that earlier. If you want to read the book, I suggest you do so. It's not one of those things where, like, reading the book is just going to be a complete retread of the movie. Like, you can gain some new things from it.
Yeah.
So spoilers.
Yeah, we forgot
ahead.
to mention.
Yeah.
Read the book. If you're wanting to read the book, if you plan on reading the book, wait until you read the book when you watch this.
For sure. I completely agree.
Anyway,
but
you can continue.
when he's chasing him around, like, there is one final moment where Jack comes out of this trance. Like it's like there's a battle between the hotel and Jack going on within Jack's body.
Yeah.
And Jack breaks through for a second at the end, and he tells Danny, basically, you know, run away, Doc, run as fast as you can, and remember how much I love you, is what he tells him. And then proceeds to beat himself in the face with this mallet that he has in front of Danny.
Wait, are you saying Dick Halloran does?
No, Jack.
Okay, sorry.
Jack
does.
Destroys his own face with the mallet.
Wow.
And I was thinking, from a child's point of view, that would be so much more terrifying. Because if you already had a loving relationship with your father, like, you know, obviously not everyone's blessed to have a good relationship with their parents, but your parents are like the two people you should be able to depend on more than anyone else in your life. I mean, they created you.
Yeah.
So to see your father, who you have a great relation, or no, I wouldn't say great, you know, there's obviously those problems there, but your father, who you love and you know deep down loves you, like, they go out and do snowball fights and everything, like, completely different.
Yeah.
To not only try to kill you, so at first it seems like a betrayal, but then you realize it's not really your dad. It's something inside of him. And he says, I love you, please run away, and then kills himself right in front of you. To have that be your last image of your father is so much more terrifying to me.
So it's kind of like a redemptive sacrifice.
Yeah.
Before the hotel burns down, correct?
Yes.
In the movie, it freezes over.
Yeah.
And that's how Jack dies.
And people make great points online of like, maybe the reason Stephen King didn't like the movie so much is because Stephen King wrote a lot of himself, I think, into Danny and Jack. So he wrote himself into Danny because, Stephen King's father was not a part of his life. I believe he was raised by a single mom. So I think that's the part of him in Danny. But as far as Jack goes, I believe he was struggling with alcoholism at the time.
Yeah. And
so he wrote a lot of himself into Jack. And so maybe by him giving Jack that redemptive moment, he's telling himself, like, I can redeem myself.
Yeah.
I'm not a lost cause because of this issue that I have and how I sometimes treat my family.
Yeah.
But with Kubrick basically giving Jack no redemption, that's essentially like Kubrick telling King, there's no redemption for you.
Yeah.
In a way, maybe King took it personally in that regard, and some people think that's why he wasn't super hot on it.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I think it boils down to, I wrote this down, in my eyes, King is more of an optimist.
Yep.
And there's probably more humanity in his work than in Kubrick. Kubrick is more of I think Kubrick is a little bit more pessimistic.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's less humanity in his films, and it's more about the cycles of nature and how you can't escape your biology.
Yeah.
I've only seen a few Kubrick films. I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, Eyes Wide Shut, and now this. All three of those movies are not feel-good movies by any means.
Yeah.
There's hardly any redemption. I can see how that would come off as cold-hearted to Stephen King.
Yeah.
Most people would think of Stephen King as not an optimist or any of this
and
stuff.
And he does have some. I told him I just have to mention Revival by Stephen King in this video. The ending of that book and Pet Sematary too, they are both really dark. So I mean, he's not always an optimist, but I saw an interview of him and he said, I think I'm a pretty warm person. And I agree with that, just based on what I know about him. Definitely less cold and just, like you perfectly said it, pessimistic.
Yeah. In his words, he said the endings of both works symbolized the creators of both. So the hotel burning up, he felt like he was a more warm-hearted person.
Yeah.
And then it freezing over in the movie.
Yeah.
He said, that's showing that Stanley Kubrick is just a cold person. They have so much beef, and I think King has started to forgive him more. In the past few years.
Because this is something I was going to ask you. So let's say you were in Stephen King's position, right? Would you feel super obviously you're going to be protective over your work, but when you sign it over to Stanley Kubrick, how would you feel? Like, would you feel like, hey, it's his thing at that point and he can do whatever he wants, or would you still like?
I don't know how I would feel, dude.
Yeah,
that's tough. I guess it really depends on who you're signing it over to.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to find that balance of, because Kubrick has to be allowed to make certain changes and put himself in the film and his own opinions. But I think you also have to find that balance of respecting the source material and respecting the fans of the original and these characters as well. So, did Kubrick find that balance? That's up to debate. But I don't know. A lot of people would say he didn't, and some people would say he didn't find the balance, but for the better. This movie is just widely regarded as one of the best horror movies of all time.
Another question that I have for you. So, and I was thinking about this before we filmed this, and I was thinking, I think a good way to sum up book versus movie is, in the book, when it comes to Jack Torrance, it's basically a monster, which is the hotel, trying to act like Danny's father. But in the movie, it's flipped, so it's Danny's father acting like a monster. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I think at one point Danny even mentions, like, he tells this thing, you're not my dad. You have my dad's face, and you look like my dad, but you're not my dad. You know, and it doesn't seem like Kubrick's version's like that. So my question to you is, if Kubrick just wanted to write a story about a man just going, losing it and going after his family, who he already resents in the first place, I wonder why not just make that its own separate story. I wonder why he tied it into The Shining. And, had he done it in his own way, completely separate from The Shining, he could have put the supernatural aspect on Jack's side where Jack is seeing these figures, but Wendy and Danny don't see them, just to make it more ambiguous.
Yeah.
So why even need the supernatural at all for that?
Right.
Or you could, if you want to incorporate the supernatural and make it ambiguous, just show the supernatural from Jack's perspective, but no one else's, so that it's up for debate and, people like us can talk about it. I wonder why he didn't just, kind of put his own spin on it. I mean, he did put his own spin on it, but why not just make it its own separate story?
Right.
And I wonder if
like an original.
Yes.
An original narrative.
Yes.
An original IP. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
And maybe he just liked the setting of the hotel, and maybe he liked most of what King was going for. And maybe he didn't want people to think that he was riffing off of Stephen King.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I was thinking about this too. I asked myself the same question. A man like him, you would think he'd want to do his own thing completely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to have as much freedom as possible with no repercussions. But it's surprising to me that he didn't.
Yeah. Because, he was already, it's not like he needed that name recognition. At the time, he was definitely more famous than Stephen King, I would imagine. It's not like
probably.
It's because he had done big movies before The Shining, correct? So,
Yeah.
he wouldn't have needed that name recognition of The Shining to get this made. It's not like he was a debut filmmaker or anything.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Some people say he was bored,
Yeah.
He just wanted to do something different.
Yeah,
and that
true.
could be the truth.
Yeah, the guy's so talented. Maybe he just wanted to do like a side quest and try something else.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he had adapted anything before that.
I don't think he had. I think everything else was original.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he wrote his films or not. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Yeah.
Apparently he had like a 200 IQ.
That's crazy.
I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've seen.
200. That's like insanely high.
Yeah. So he's one of a kind, undeniably. We don't mean to come off as disrespecting him.
Yeah.
We just wanted to shed light on the rivalry that King and Kubrick had.
Yeah, it seems like I've been pretty negative about this movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to be negative about it in any way. Like I was telling him, I was 30 minutes into the movie and I was thinking like, I'm going to pause it just to see how much time's gone by. Probably 10 minutes, and I paused and it was 30 minutes. And I was like, yeah I'm enjoying this, you know? So I love the movie overall, and I don't want to crap on Kubrick or anything because I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I like both versions. I do like Stephen King's version a little more.
I was going to ask you about that, which one you put over the other one.
I do like Stephen King's a little more. There were a few hokey moments in Stephen King's. I don't know if you knew this, but the hedge maze in the movie, and this is something that Kubrick destroys King on. In the movie, it's a hedge maze. In the book, and it was kind of cool in the book, but they were hedge animals, like a hedge lion and all these different animals, and it would kind of be like the Slender Man effect, where like Jack's out trimming the hedges, and he'll be looking this way, and he'll turn around, and the hedge will be a little closer. The animal will. And then he'll turn around and it'll be a little closer. But when Dick Halloran rides in on the snowmobile to save the day, and by the way, Dick Halloran does survive in the book.
Oh,
which
he
is
does?
a big difference.
He
Yes.
does? Okay.
And he's actually a part of their lives after the book wraps up. And so that's interesting. I'm interested to see how Mike Flanagan does this with Dr. Sleep. Like, does he go with the film or the book? But anyway, when Dick Halloran rides in to save the day, like these hedge lions like jump on him and attack him. And I thought that was a little corny. That was a little over the top. So there are a few moments like that, but overall, I do like the book better.
I like the idea though of them moving when you don't look.
Yeah, but they shouldn't attack though. I think,
Yeah.
I think that was a little hokey.
Sometimes less is more. So
yes, I agree.
But that would have been cool to adapt cinematically. Them moving in closer.
But with the technology they had back then,
that's true. It would have looked awful.
It. Yeah.
And that's one thing about this film, dude. It looks good.
It does.
Like the effects, there's a few moments like with Dick Halloran getting stabbed by the axe. It's obviously so fake and it looks so bad. But most of the effects in this movie and the practical stuff looks pretty good actually.
Yes, I agree.
So I got to give the team credit for that. The blood, dude, looked amazing.
Yeah.
I think the more I think about it, that might be my favorite shot of the movie.
Yep.
That was amazing. But I had something else to mention, which I haven't even covered half my notes. And we're going to have to cut it off here in a little bit. We could talk for 3 hours.
We could.
I mean, I haven't covered half of what I wrote down.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Mike Flanagan. We're gonna.
We both love Mike Flanagan.
We love some Flanagan. We're gonna watch Doctor Sleep probably in the next few months. Hopefully, we're gonna probably cover it after he reads the book and he watches it, and then I watch it. 2019 film, right? Sequel to The Shining, written in 2012 by King.
13, I believe.
Okay, and we're both very interested to see how. What's his name? Flanagan.
Yep.
You know, how he finds the balance between King and Kubrick. Because
Yeah.
that's got to be tough. Because they're both
Gotta be
very, they're similar, but they're both very different works.
Yeah.
You know, and it feels like you do almost have to pick a side.
Yeah. And you can't continue the story of both. If you're continuing
Yeah.
the story of the movie, you're not continuing the story of the book.
That's a great
And if you
point.
continue the story of the book, you're not continuing the story of the movie.
Yeah.
Because if he continues the story of the movie, the hotel is still there. Or he could split the difference where he says, "Oh, well, the hotel didn't blow up at the end of these events, but something happened where they tore the hotel down years later or something
Yeah.
to get rid of the hotel."
Yeah.
Or, there could be different ways of him kind of splitting the difference and trying to please both crowds.
Yeah.
But I feel like for this Doctor Sleep movie to be the best it can, he'll have to pick one side or the
He'll
other.
have to commit to, he'll have
Yep.
to commit to one side, at least to an extent.
And he is a Stephen King fanatic, as far as I know. I believe in Midnight Mass, which is our favorite show of all time. I would say.
We talk about it every time.
We talk about it every time we see each other.
Yeah,
but
every time.
Doesn't Riley? I believe he has a Salem's Lot poster in his room.
Yeah, I think he does. I think
Yeah,
you're right.
he has a lot of. He wanted to adapt Revival. It fell through, sadly.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's adapted other Stephen King works like Gerald's Game. So he's a Stephen King fanatic, as far as I'm aware. So
Yeah, and we plan on covering more of his stuff.
Yes.
We'd like to cover Midnight Mass eventually. We're obsessed with that show. And Doctor Sleep. And I'm interested to see, because I think Doctor Sleep is going to give us not only answers for the continuation of the story, obviously, but it'll give us more answers for Kubrick's film as well, I think.
yeah,
I think it will.
I hope it can kind of tie up some of the loose ends of both.
Yeah, and I don't I don't want it to give too many answers.
Yes,
I
yeah.
hope it still leaves a fair amount of stuff ambiguous, and
Yeah.
open to interpretation.
Yep.
Because if it doesn't, I think the DNA of this IP would just be lost. Because
Yeah.
it would lose its identity.
And it would take a lot of the fun out of it. for
It
sure.
would, yeah.
Yeah.
Because so much of this conversation is just about interpretation and different theories and stuff. So I agree with you, man, 100%.
Yep.
Any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, closing thoughts. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Went by very fast. The 2.5 hour runtime, it does not feel that way. It feels like an hour and a half to me.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
Good performances from mostly everybody. Great directing. I don't like some of the narrative decisions that were made, but overall, really like it. I'm going to give it probably a solid 4 stars, and I recommend every horror fan to watch it for sure.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot too. I think every horror fan should watch it. I mean, it's a staple of the 80s, man, and it's held up. In a lot of ways, it's held up very well.
Absolutely.
And I was impressed. We didn't get around to Room 237, that scene, dude. That scene had me freaked out with the bathtub.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that was, that not just for its time, but that's one of the greatest horror scenes I've ever seen. Just completely unnerving.
Yep.
The imagery is insane, but yeah, I'd recommend this. It was a good one. I liked it. And I guess we'll see you next time. I don't know what it's going to be. It might be Dr. Sleep, but
Yep. If anyone has anything that they want us to talk about, let us know.
yeah.
And we'd be happy to check it out. We'll mainly talk about movies for now. I think it's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
We potentially may branch into TV at some point. We're not really sure.
Yeah.
But any movies for sure that you want us to talk about, let us know, and we would be happy to check them out.
Absolutely. And we should have some links in the description, like I know the videos, maybe we can link that Reddit post and all this stuff we've been talking about, because we didn't come up with all this on our own, but we'll link some other stuff. We'll link our website, the Decoders. There's 5 of us.
Yep.
Go check out the podcast by Isaac, Jacob, and Isaiah too. It was a good one. It was much shorter than ours.
Yeah, we talked.
They'll
forever.
probably be laughing about how long ours is and how much we rambled, but I love it, man.
Yep.
I had a great time.
Great time. Great movie, great time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right. We'll catch you all in the next one.
Yep. See you guys.